Back in the day, you guys called it the Iron Triangle. 3 towns here revolved around the prison system.
The highest security you can get, that's the death chamber on the bottom floor.
You can hear them right now.
Oh, yeah.
So for you, it's just totally normal. It's just another industry.
Yes, a big part of it. The closer you are to a prison, the less chance of an escaped prisoner stopping to hide out at your house.
A lot of them looking to change their lives, looking for opportunity.
It's giant.
We're pretty much surrounded by it.
Those are 2 inmates. Actually witnessed one of the executions, and it was by lethal injection.
Convicts that died in the prison, no family members.
Nobody's claimed the body.
James Warren.
99.
When the going gets tough in the economy, this is a great line of work.
Absolutely.
These rural areas, they're kind of out of sight, out of mind. Most of your folks living in more populated areas really take it for granted that these things even exist.
So here we are, downtown Starke, Chief Deputy. Should I call you Brad or should I call you Undersheriff?
Call me Brad.
This town, pretty much the economy is built off the prison, right?
Yes. Prison industry is still one of the largest economic drivers of all. Now this building right here, this is an old bank building. We can go in here if you want to. We got a camera going, Susan.
What's in the safe?
Storage.
That's an old classic door.
Not so much money in here anymore.
No money.
Those are some secure CDs. Okay, so what was it before prisons here?
Railroad came through as a railroad stop. Once the Flagler built the East Coast Railroad,
Yep.
this was a spur coming off of that. And then not long after, Camp Blanding, which is about 6 miles to the east,
Okay.
that became a training grounds for World War II. At one point, Camp Blanding, because of all the people that were training to go over into Europe, I want to say it was like the 2nd or 3rd largest city in the state of Florida because of the population that was out there.
Okay.
So we're going to be heading to a couple of different correctional facilities and the one prison in the state of Florida.
I'll put up a map here, but we're in Starke. We're going to Rayford and then Lake Butler.
Correct.
Which is like Starke, even maybe more so tied into the prison economy.
Yeah.
So you have the work crews that come out of the prisons, clean up the side of the highways, that sort of stuff?
Clean up the side of the highways.
Okay.
We got a project going on at the courthouse right now where we're doing some secured parking for our judges, and the inmates actually came out and built the walls. There was a day and time back many years ago where it was forced labor, and obviously that was ruled unconstitutional. Now it's voluntary. So if the inmate wants to work outside and they pass the security screenings that they do get paid for their effort.
So this is old world Florida right here.
I
the real
love
deal.
this street. Now you can see some of these houses, this one's been redone, and when they redo them, they're gorgeous. You know, I always think back 50 years ago when these houses were originally built. The craftsmanship and the style is just so neat. So this is my father's childhood home. I used to give my parents a hard time about not getting to grow up here in Bradford County, but my dad said that I was created there in that house, so it's got some sentimental value to me.
You grew up in Miami, right?
Grew up in Miami. We're gonna pull in here real quick. This is Danielle Smith, no relation, but she's a very dynamic person in the community, and I just wanted you to meet her real quick.
Guys, Starke has a feeling I can't put a finger on yet. Old world stuff, got a deep south feeling. As they say, the more south you go, the more north it gets in Florida. So this is like northern Florida, deep south.
Oh, it smells good. Danielle.
What's going on out here?
I got a food truck out here in Starke. I got a car wash.
Good food?
Oh yeah, good food, good barbecue.
Best in town?
Best in town. I got my buddy Brad here with me.
Is he your best customer?
He's one of my best customers, I will say.
The first time I met her, I was at my mom and dad's office, and I see her come running up on foot. She runs right up to my mom, gets her car keys, and brings it back to do the car wash, and then drove her car back to the office and dropped it off, and then ran back down here on foot. And
That's service.
A mile down the road.
That's service. Tell us, because this video is about the prison system in the area. Do you have a lot of those workers coming in here?
So I have prison, come in looking for a job, when they transition or just trying to find out.
When they get out of prison.
If they were local and you know them, you know, you build a relationship with people.
It's all about trust.
It's all about trust, yeah.
But you have no problem giving someone a second chance.
Well, listen, just because, you know, people in prison, you got good people, you got bad people. So a lot of them looking to change their lives, you know, looking for an opportunity. Some will, some won't, so what, move on. That's the thing, you know. But everybody honestly deserves a fair chance.
Okay, a little detour into the county jail.
So this is our pod control.
This is basically the local side of things.
This is local. They get arrested on the initial charges, and they're housed here. It's a mixed population, so there could be a murderer all the way to somebody that didn't pay child support. Housed in here at any given time. So it's a unique situation.
And this woman over here sort of looking at the cameras, managing everyone, because we do have people in cells out here, right?
We have people in cells. They have access to phones. They have access to books. We feed them in there. And then we also have a section where we can take them out for a period of time every day in a courtyard area.
All the cells here, is that what's?
Yes, this controls all of the access doors to each of the areas, to include all the pods as well as the individual cells that we have. So that can be operated as well as access to the entire pod area.
I was going to ask a question, but I don't know if I should have this on camera. Once this video goes live on YouTube, they might be watching this video on YouTube talking about this.
Yeah.
That's sort of funny, huh? Or not?
I mean, well, they don't have access to live internet here.
Not
to say they don't get on their phones or their video calls and somebody's like, hey, look what we saw. Look what we saw, you know, but they don't have access to it like right here. They shouldn't. I am the programs coordinator here at the jail. So I help to oversee any of the efforts for the individuals to better themselves or to try to make good use of their time while they're here.
Rewarding work?
Very. When it
works?
When it works, it's always.
And this is your mother?
This is my mother.
And you were saying off camera, third generation in corrections.
She's the third.
She's the third. You came down from Tennessee.
Yes.
When the going gets tough in the economy, this is a great line of work.
Absolutely.
And that's why you guys came down from Tennessee?
Absolutely. My father was self-employed and owned several businesses in Tennessee. And as the economy kind of tanked and went downhill, he was looking for a retirement.
Oh, okay.
And with the benefits. And that's how we ended up down here. Then when I came along and was old enough and started having my family in order to provide good insurance and the benefits that you're always looking for with the small kids and everything, then I went to the Department of Corrections as well. It was one of the best jobs you could get in the area.
You were in at the state prison?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
We're going there next. Oh,
Yes.
interesting.
My grandfather started there. He was hired on at Florida State Prison. He was he was around for various high-profile inmates who were executed out there. Ted Bundy.
The early
Ted Bundy.
The early 80s.
And then he retired in the late 90s.
Okay.
From out there, and then of course she worked there, and then I actually worked there.
Yeah.
So it's going.
So it's like,
yeah.
Do you have kids?
I do.
They're probably a bit young, but
They are.
do you want them to work there when they grow up? Would you? Do you want to keep this lineage going?
I know that within corrections and within any type of law enforcement or anything like that, that's where my heart is. And I know it can be rewarding. I know it can be fun. I know it can be all the things. It can be stressful, of course, just nature of the work. But I know that if that's where their heart lies and that's something they're truly interested in, I would support them doing it.
So it's where your heart is.
Yep.
What do you get out of it?
There's a certain fulfillment in knowing that you've helped an underdog, someone who has struggled or who has had bad luck all along the way, and everything that could possibly go wrong and against them has. And then to be able to come in and give them a little bit of encouragement or give them some tools or whatever it is that they need to start helping them to get out of a cycle of being in this, then it's like, especially if that goes to their kids or if it
So you get connected to them a little emotionally.
It can. I mean, it is definitely a line that you have to balance.
I'd imagine, yeah.
You know, you can't, but I think over the years I've been able to do that and keep that professionalism, but also that I care and I do want to see you do better and I do want to see you do well.
That's one of the differences that you'll see with the state prison system and with the jails. Is most of the people we deal with in here are people that are in our community. We've either watched them grow up, they've gone to school with us, our children. We know these people. So if we can do anything to positively impact and kind of help them out, then that's great. So there's times when we can be out locally, and we have people that approach us and they talk to us just like anybody else.
Florida State Prison.
Oh yeah, this is the start of the property right here. The highest security you can get, and it's death row, which it's the end of the line for many of them. Basically, as far as you can see to the county line, which is about a mile up the road there, is Florida State Prison. To the left are some officer housing, and then there's some administrative buildings and a warehouse. Out here in these fields, they raise cattle, they raise crops to help feed the inmates. We've actually set the record this past year in 2025 for the number of people that have been put to death for the year.
And they use an ejection now, it's not the chair, right?
Correct.
Because before I read, it was the chair, and they would take people from the community, nobody knew who it was, different people, maybe even every time, they got paid like $150 to do it.
Yeah, the executioner.
The executioner, right.
Executioner. Now, they still do that with the injection. There's a way that they actually set it up, and they don't identify who the executioner is. Actually witnessed one of the executions, and it was by lethal injection. It was kind of a last minute. The courts turned down his appeal, and the execution moved forward. They needed to bring in witnesses to see it. They called the office. I happened to be the one that answered the phone, and they asked if we had any officers that would come be on the witness panel.
How heavy was that day? What was that like?
It was a very interesting experience. Correctional officers, they have certain people identified to work in certain spots of the process. The most mature, respectful, professional individuals are the ones that are actually working right up close to where the execution's occurring. So they have a whole process. They meet off-site for the witnesses. It could be family members of the person being put to death, or it could be family members of the person that was victimized. Then they also have independent witnesses that come in. It was regimented, very medical type of process that took place. They explained to us the process going into it, so we knew, but there wasn't a word spoken as far as the witness panel. Probably for about an hour, it was just complete silence from the moment that we left the meeting spot to going in, witnessing it, and then leaving out of there.
Wow.
It was a very somber, serious point in time. Now, this little building that comes out towards us right here at the end, see how you got the wings going those ways, and then you got the one coming out this end?
Yep.
That's the death chamber on the bottom floor. The rest of the wings are where the inmates are housed. And then you'll see these areas. They look like containment areas right here, fenced in areas. And that's where they'll bring them out if they're isolated and aren't allowed to have contact with anybody else. They have their own little section that they're allowed to come out. They get certain time.
You can hear them right now.
Oh, yeah.
Can you stop for a sec? Is it all right? Is it all right? Can we show the video of where you said death row was?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I want to get you in trouble.
It's not going to get me in trouble. We're driving through.
Is it like that all day?
Not all day. Those are the ones that are, well, I don't know, maybe.
I think they're inside, right?
Are they inside?
I don't see anyone
I don't see anybody moving outside. So yeah, it could be like that.
All right, guys, I want to talk to you about something happening behind the scenes to all of us. Our personal data gets hoovered up by data brokers and sold all across the internet. So earlier this year, I found a solution to this problem, Incogni. Incogni is a personal information removal service that wipes yourself from the internet. So we have the right to remove ourselves from these lists. But to try to do this one by one would be a full-time job. I started using Incogni in February, and I've seen exceptional results. Here's my dashboard where I've been removed from 1,448 data brokers. And you can see here all of the data brokers that have tried to poach my personal information. For me, I currently have 237 that are being removed. So what you need to do is sign up to Incogni, and they'll do the consistent, constant, in the background work of removing you from these websites. So I've received way less spam emails, spam calls, junk mail, which removes one of life's biggest annoyances. And since this is a game like whack-a-mole, you can't just do this once and be done. It's a constant process, and that's why having Incogni working 24/7, 365 in the background is crucial. I strongly suggest getting Incogni's unlimited plan, which gives the option to request custom removals from any website. There's a huge discount if you use my link down below in the description to get 60% off an annual plan. Take back your personal data with Incogni. Click on the link below, incogni.com/Santenello to get 60% off their annual plan. Now back to the story.
Now, my father was a prison guard, but he worked the tower. And he said it was a draining job that you sat day in and day out just watching these secured fence areas to make sure nobody's trying to escape.
And it's 99.999% of your time is watching nothing happen.
Watching nothing happen. But
you have to
that
be...
one moment that something does happen, you have to stop the person. Yeah, you can't miss it.
Before all the cameras, before all the good cameras and motion sensors. It's such an interesting feel out here. You have this cutesy little town, and then you have some of the most hardened criminals right here.
Yeah.
The only place for death row in the state. So there's just, it's heavy. The death penalty is obviously a very sticky topic. Now, when it hits home, as in it affects me, as in like someone murders my mother, do I want them to get the death penalty? I don't know right now. I'd have to feel it happen, right? Personally, maybe it would be very clear. Maybe it'd be like, that person deserves to be off this earth. Or maybe I'd have some bit of empathy for that not to happen. I don't know. I haven't been there, right? So until you've been there, it's hard to know, right? Like if you are on the victim side of that.
Well, I mean, you know, different people have different opinions about it. My personal opinion is I fully support it.
Okay.
I know the process that it goes through, and it takes decades from the time that they're convicted of the crime in order to be put to death. All the appeals processes that are in place, it is a deterrent if people know that there's that possibility that they could be put to death. Now, this is New River that we're crossing, going into Union County.
And then the prison continues.
See, directly across the street, or across the county line, is Union Correctional.
Okay, so separate.
It's separate, different counties. Now, they do have people that are on death row living over here, and they'll transfer them over if the warrant is signed for their execution. This is housing for correctional officers to be readily available. If they have a major incident go down, and they can recall people that are off duty to get them here to assist.
How often is it that somebody actually escapes, or that doesn't happen anymore?
It is so rare for it to happen. The last time I can remember one happening was about 10 years ago. It was an inmate that had reached like a trustee type status and was working outside the prison walls, basically. Mm-hmm. As soon as they realized he had walked off or ran off, there was a 2-day search for this guy. The thickest woods, they have several bloodhound units where we had a dog on the ground for 2 days straight. And as soon as that dog would tire out, they'd put another one on the ground and chase that guy the whole time. He had no time to stop and relax or anything. By the end of the 2 days, he was so tired, so hungry, and eaten up by bugs and torn up by the thick brush that he was having to go through, that he came out onto the street and surrendered to an officer that was set up on the perimeter. We're going down here's where the graveyard is.
Graveyard?
They actually have a cemetery for inmates that have died while in custody. And we're pulling up to it here in just a minute. Here's a placard. This grounds renovation, beautification, and perpetual. This is the result of hard work, private donations, and last work.
Okay, see, these are all convicts that died in the prison?
Yes.
No family members?
Nobody's claimed the body, and you know, they have the right to a burial. And like this says at the very bottom, it says they paid their debt to society. May God remit their debt to him. 1997 on that one.
Arthur Schaefer,
Nope.
James Warren,
99.
Milson Joseph Edward. You're used to this stuff. It's nothing for you, Brad, but it's a bit wild to come into. I'm not going to lie.
I'll have to say this. I've driven out here a couple times because we have a training facility, firearms training, out here from time to time, and I had noticed the cemetery. I've never stopped here. This is my first time actually stopping, and my personal thought when I first saw it and realized what it was is, you know, good gracious, these are human beings. Like the placard said, you know, they paid their debt to society, died while they were in prison, and there was nobody there to claim the body. And this is where they lay. I commend the Department of Corrections for giving them some sort of respectful burial.
Because nobody would know or care.
Right.
That's
That's
sad.
one of the things I've learned about being in this community is that the people in the Department of Corrections, they care about the people as individuals, even up into the point of putting somebody to death in the death chamber. They are giving them respect and dignity that they probably did not, I say probably, almost assuredly didn't give their victims any type of respect.
Wouldn't you say, though, Brad, like any profession, there are good ones and bad ones. And of course, like, there'll be a guy in there that's not that great. You hope to weed those guys out, and you want, like, in your office or with any profession, you want awesome doctors. You don't want malpractice. And so it's human, right, to get people that are bad, and that infiltrates everything. And there's going to be some of that in there. There's going to be some of it in here. There's definitely some bad YouTubers, that's for sure.
And can you imagine, your job is to go in and deal with these populations. And these particular prisons, these are some of the worst of the worst.
First-degree murder, rapists.
Yeah, and it could be lower-level crimes, but they've committed other crimes while in prison. Have gotten to the point where they have to go into a higher security because they can't manage them in lower security, not been able to acclimate to the prison environment. From here to downtown Starke is about 7 miles. That's 2 maximum security prisons, 7 miles.
Yeah, I wanted to drop some info I found last night. Florida Department of Corrections is the 3rd biggest in the country, which makes sense. It's the 3rd biggest population. Inmate population is roughly 89,000 right now. It's the largest agency administered by the state of Florida with a budget of $3.3 billion.
With a B.
These are government jobs. There's no third party.
It's not privatized.
It's not privatized.
They looked at a few years ago doing some privatization. I think when Jeb Bush was governor, it didn't work out well, so they stopped.
And we're going to meet a guy today, former corrections officer. He agreed to be on camera because he can't get someone currently working in there on camera.
Yeah, it's
not
interesting.
gonna happen.
They are tight-knit community, and they are worried about media and talking to the public about what's going on because they're afraid that it's going to be misconstrued what they say.
Well, as a creator, I can make the best things sound terrible and the worst things sound great with voiceover, the right music, the right editing.
Absolutely. So
you never know who's coming up with a camera, and I get that because someone might have good intentions, but they might not. We were passing some signs back there. It said starting $22 an hour.
Probably correctional officer, right around the 50,000 a year mark.
And so the reason they have all the prisons up here and correctional facilities, cheap land, rural communities.
They had, back then, people were worried about living around a prison, so they tried to put them out in isolated areas where there wasn't much of a population base. I talked to a gentleman about 2 or 3 years ago. He called and was looking at purchasing a property. They were moving up from Sarasota area. The property that they really liked and wanted to buy backed up to and adjoined the Florida State Prison property line. And his question to me was, how safe or unsafe would it be for him to move his family up here? And I told him, the closer you are to a prison, the less chance of an escaped prisoner stopping to hide out at your house. They are wanting to get as far away as fast as they can. So if your property is right next to the prison, if they ran across your property, they would be gone within seconds. He ended up buying it, moving in, and loves it.
Okay, downtown Lake Butler.
This is it.
This is the center point.
This is the, used to be the only red light. Now they got another one around the corner up
a
here.
nice old
This is the
courthouse.
courthouse and the sheriff's office, and the jail is on the backside of that.
That's nice. There's some
And
cool stuff here.
I believe it's the only county in the state that does not have a hotel. There's a McDonald's right here on the right that just opened up about 2 years ago.
So that's a big deal in a town like this.
Huge deal. Yeah.
Huge deal.
Huge.
Everyone's pumped up on that.
All right, so I'm gonna eat at the Skip's Delis. There's the IGA right there.
Okay, talk to the owner here.
And then
I'll meet you in
there's
at Skips.
right behind there is Jackson's Building Supply. So a lot of locals go there to get their hardware.
You're an early eater, Brad, huh? 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
I'll be back in a little bit.
All right.
I'm gonna go try these guys.
Good luck. I
All
got
right.
my phone on me if you need it.
Okay, thanks, Brad.
I don't want to stand in front of my dead plants. The freeze has killed my
It froze, huh?
plants. Yeah.
So you're Mike Spires. This is your market.
Yeah. 4 generations. So.
4 generations.
Yep.
I thought you would be cool to talk to because you deal with everyone. A store like this in a town like this, you talk to everyone.
Yep.
What's going on, would you say, wide question, answer it any way you want. What's going on with the prison system these days and the employment and what you see from your shop?
I know they were having some issues with recruitment for a while. So I'm not sure. I guess all of that's kind of working itself out.
Okay.
I think the governor's done a good job of trying to help the prison system out.
Okay.
They play a huge part in this community. It's just part of us. It's part of who we are and part of what our community is all about.
So for you, it's just totally normal. It's just another industry, keeps the lights on, keeps things going.
Yes, a big part of it.
And you got the IGA, that's a classic.
Yeah, it is. It's
Been around forever.
I've
I grew up
had
near one.
I've had there's probably quite a few current correctional officers that were started out in high school working here. So we were talking about that with someone the other day, and they said, "Yeah, IGAs. I've heard of IGAs." I said, "Yeah." I said, "You would be surprised how many people I've talked to, just out of the blue, said, oh, I have a family member that was their first job growing up."
You must hear all sorts of things from people working in on the inside.
I
Family
hear,
members.
I hear, and it's tough. It's from what I can gather, I can just imagine it's a tough job. I mean, you're dealing with a society that's not the best.
And these guys are from who knows where.
Yeah.
They're not from here mostly. Mostly South Florida, I
Oh
bet.
yeah. Most of the crime that takes place is elsewhere, but in Rayford, which is where the hardened criminals are, death penalty, death row, all that's out there. If you have a chance to go ride by there,
We just did.
It's a unique place out there.
And what I think goes unnoticed, the prison system, while you can take a bunch of different angles on it, the reality we're in, if those don't exist, if our most hardened criminals aren't there, and the people working here don't keep that going, then all of our lives are much worse.
It would be chaotic.
It'd
It would
be chaotic.
Yep.
So actually, I never even thought of thanking the corrections officer ever in my life. And I'm sure there's some bad ones I wouldn't want to thank, but I'm sure the majority aren't. They do a good job.
Yeah.
And without them, we have way sketchier streets.
Yes.
So we're all connected. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
yes, sir.
A lot of your customers from the
prison, and we have clear containers just for them because they can't take their food in if it's not wrapped in a clear container or some kind of saran wrap.
Oh, right. Did you know that, Brad?
I did not know that.
So no shank can be hidden type stuff.
Right.
Or drugs or whatever, right? So it's super important for you then, these workers?
Yes, sir. That's what most of the income is around here is the prisons. In Union County, unless you work at a gas station or,
Sandwich shop.
at the sandwich shop down here with us.
Can I show the sandwiches? Is that all right? There you go. You go heavy on the meat. I like that. Looks good. So just nice, quaint little town. You have a job at the prison. You're making 50 grand maybe starting, 48 grand. work up a little bit. Maybe your wife's in there involved somehow. You can make over 100 grand. Houses here, I'm just guessing 200,000-300,000?
Yeah, no, it's not any more than that. Nicer houses are about 250, 300,000.
So for Florida, cheap real estate?
Comparatively speaking, yes. All 3 counties that we've been talking about, each county only has 1 high school, which draws the community even closer together, especially like on Friday nights during football season. It is the biggest event, and the rivalries between those 3 schools are second to none. If it's an away game, each town will pretty much move their entire population over to the other town to cheer on their team and have some really good football.
So it's a big deal here.
It is.
High school football.
Deal.
What are those buses up there? Inmates are getting bussed
probably.
around?
We'll follow it. I'm pretty sure it's going to be going to the regional medical center, the biggest facility that they have right here in Lake Butler.
That's connected with the prison system?
Yes. This is the one when people get sent to the Department of Corrections, this part of the state, they all come out here for their medical evaluation. If they have serious medical issues and need extended medical stays, they house them out here.
You got to think that bus ride, if you're an inmate, right? This bus ride has to be the best thing happening. Just being sort of out in society a little bit.
Yep.
Beautiful road. No windows, so they can't break anything.
Well, smaller windows that they can't climb out of, yes. But this is the sports complex here. Rec, baseball, football, I think they even have soccer out here.
So it's just an intertwined part of existence here.
Yes.
The prisoners go by while you're playing baseball and everything's normal.
Well, you know, most of the coaches, the parents of the kids that are out here are employed at the prisons.
So the doctors and nurses that work in these facilities, did they train for this? I would think they'd have to be like...
They would be given, and continually, because there's certain rules and procedures that they have to follow per state law.
This thing goes on forever.
It's giant.
We're pretty much surrounded by it. The camera doesn't do it all, unfortunately. I don't have a zoom lens with this, but it's pretty much all around us. And it's actually nice grounds here, I gotta say. It's beautiful out here.
It's manicured and
taken
care of by the inmates.
Oh, the inmates are doing all this. They're cleaning all this up.
Mowing it. Those are 2 inmates. Hey, Brett.
Man, where y'all located?
We are crossing the runway out here at RMC.
Yeah, I met you back there.
So Brad sort of suckered you into this.
Yeah, that's right. That's
right. All right. So Brad, we're gonna let you chill.
Good.
You get a break from me. It's probably a good thing. We can walk. Are you cool with walking in town? It's so beautiful.
Absolutely.
And Brett, you worked in corrections for how long?
I was with the department for right at about 17 years.
When did you start? How old?
I started here at the reception and medical center. I was 19 years old, freshly out of high school. I had a young family and quite frankly just needed a job with benefits, and you know, it was a great opportunity to start a retirement. And it's one of those things that I never really thought I was going to have to think of so early in life, but starting a family, you know, that age, you know, it was just something that was necessary. It's certainly not your regular 8-to-5 desk job, but I'll tell you, I have no regrets. It's probably one of the best decisions I ever made.
Really? Okay.
And that is a city in and of itself.
Okay.
It essentially has everything that we have, its own governing laws, its own rules and regulations. You know, out here we have speed limits and those sorts of things, and they have just their different set of rules and regulations that they live by. It is something that people don't know much about. They don't know much about what the daily routine is for any of these guys that work here in these prisons. In all reality, just the sheer level of skill that it takes just to communicate. There's such a diverse population inside of those fences. Many of the folks that work in these facilities are from the local areas. In our area, right here in the heart of North Central Florida, there's diversity in the population outside of the prison, but whenever you get inside there, it is all worlds that come together.
Oh, yeah.
And just having the skills to communicate, maintain order, and just make things happen.
And I can imagine a lot of the people in here, their emotional intelligence is like an 11 out of 10.
Oh yeah.
They know how to manipulate. They know they're street smarts.
Sure.
So if you're going there weak,
Yeah.
as a corrections officer, you're not on, right?
That's
Like it's a code of respect.
It is. I know a lot of folks have an us versus them type mentality, and in a sense it is. If you think about it like this, these officers that work here, they're here for their 8 hours or 12 hours, whatever their shift is, but there's always kind of a light at the end of the tunnel for them. You know, they know that whenever they're scheduled to go home, they get to leave this behind, and they get to go to their husbands and their wives and their kids and those sorts of things, and they kind of set this aside. The guys that live here, they have 24/7 to think about how to manipulate, how to make things happen their way. And so you've really got to be diligent, on your toes, so to speak, whenever you're here and supervising. Oftentimes there's one person supervising well over 100 inmates at one time. So if you don't know how to handle yourself and to communicate, it can be very difficult.
You're on your toes?
Absolutely.
Dangerous.
Dangerous.
I mean, okay, you leave your wife and kids in the morning, slight chance, a shank comes at you, something happens every day, high stress, then you clock out, you go home, you might be the Little League coach.
Oh yeah.
You might just go get an ice cream with the kids. 100%. And you just, what do? Just flip the switch every day?
Well, you have to. It's just a means of dealing with stress. Everyone's different.
Yeah.
Personally, whenever I was working here, I did have young families. I did coach the Little League teams.
Okay, that was you.
The Pop Warner football teams or something year round. And just being involved in your regular activities, but still whenever, you know, it may be midnight that you're coming in. That's the way it was whenever I started. I left home at 11:30.
Okay.
Whenever all of my family was going to sleep, and you stayed up all night. And whenever you leave, everybody's getting ready to go to school and to go about their regular day, and you sleep. And
did you feel like nobody could understand you? Who's not in there?
That's for sure. It's been a good amount of years since I worked here. I can see people that I haven't seen in many years, guys and men and women, that we worked together for some time. It may have been 20 years ago, but whenever we see each other, it's almost like a special bond. You know, it's almost like you have never been away from each other. Your relationships pick up right where they left off, and it's just a kind of a fraternity, so to speak. Before I was 30, I saw so many things that I probably wouldn't have normally seen just living out on, you know, in the free world. It wasn't here, but there was an institution that I was at that, you know, you saw a little more violence. I was a first responder to a case where another inmate had attacked one, and I guess what the term would be the shank, but an ice pick style weapon had stabbed this other guy. I think the final count was over 100 times between the neck and his waist, and that was a pretty rough set right there. You have to go hands-on because not only are you responsible for the security, making sure these guys are still there, you're also responsible for their well-being. These correctional officers, if they see an inmate that is in a life or death situation, they're going to do everything that they can possibly do to save that life, because that inmate is in the care of the department as well. And so, you know, a lot of times things are looked at negatively from more of a discipline point of view, okay? These guards, as a lot of people refer to these officers as, their job is just to be mean and to punish. That's not necessarily the case at all. What people don't hear is whenever these officers make life-saving decisions to help these guys, to administer CPR, to put their hands in over wounds that are bleeding profusely. It's just a full circle of life. You know, you work there, you live a portion of your life there, but never forget that anyone that is under your custody is also under your care, and you're responsible for that life. And so just kind of a different outlook that a lot of people won't really think about. Getting a suntan, he's rolled them sleeves up.
Well, guys, interesting stuff out here, at least for me as an outsider.
You know, it's just normal life here.
Yeah.
You know, we don't think about it until somebody that isn't around it on a regular basis, kind of like you or some of your viewers, we don't think of it as anything out of the ordinary. And we love having it here. The people that work in there are just incredible people.
People are very nice in your towns here.
Yeah, well, it's
I just got in last night. But
it's the heartbeat of Florida.
It is, huh?
As the sheriff
those are
likes to
fighting
say,
words.
you can't get to heaven without going through Bradford.
Oh.
Or Union.
Or Union. Or Baker.
Thanks for showing me a little today and sharing your story. Yeah. Thanks for being on camera, because that's really hard to find.
Absolutely.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, man.
Brad, appreciate it. All right, guys, thanks for coming on that journey. Until the next one.